3-6, 6-4, 6-3, that's scoreboard. 2 years ago, it ended her world. Today, she came back to bury it. Alex Eala stepped onto center court at Wimbledon not as a wild card, not as a hopeful, but as a seeded Grand Slam competitor. The first Filipino in history to ever earn that distinction. And standing on the other side of the net was the exact woman who had ripped that dream away from her 2 years earlier. You genuinely cannot write a story this good. A nation of over 115 million people was locked in. Fans had flown across continents, crossed oceans, painted their faces in red, white, and blue, all to watch a 21-year-old girl from Quezon City do something her country had never seen before. The air inside that stadium was different, heavy with history, buzzing with something that felt almost spiritual, because everyone in that building understood this wasn't just a tennis match. This was a reckoning. But to understand what this moment truly meant, you have to go back, way back, to a tournament most tennis fans have long forgotten. August 2024, Cary, North Carolina. The Cary Tennis Classic, an ITF event with no massive prize money, no global spotlight, and no particular reason to be remembered. Except that for one 19-year-old ranked 147th in the world, it became the match she couldn't stop thinking about for the next 730 days. Alex Eala was still finding her footing on the professional circuit, but she was playing some of the best tennis of her young life. She stormed into the quarterfinals with energy, momentum, and real belief that a breakthrough was finally within reach. Then she looked across the net and saw Renata Zarazúa, a 26-year-old Mexican veteran with years of professional experience and the kind of composure that only comes from surviving hundreds of tough matches. None of that scared Alex. She came out swinging, dominated the first set 6-3, looked completely locked in, and had a semi-final spot practically in her pocket. The crowd was warming to her. The momentum was hers. Victory felt inevitable. Then everything collapsed in a matter of hours. Zarazúa refused to go quietly. She steadied herself, raised her level, and slowly began tilting the match in her direction. She took the second set 6-4, took the decider 6-3, and just like that, in just over 2 hours of brutally competitive tennis, the comeback was complete. The young Filipina's dream run was over. For Eala, that loss hit differently than a normal defeat. This wasn't a case of being outplayed from the start. She had been winning. She had been in control. And then, in the span of a few games, everything she'd worked for slipped through her fingers. That's a different kind of pain. The kind that follows you home. The kind that waits for you in practice sessions and keeps you up at night replaying moments you wish you could take back. But here's the thing about Alex Eala. She didn't let it destroy her. She let it drive her. She flew to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca and got to work. Not quietly, obsessively. She studied Zarazúa's game frame by frame, looking for patterns, tendencies, and weaknesses. She strengthened her mental game, addressed gaps in her technique, and built the kind of inner toughness that separates good players from great ones. She made herself a silent promise. If they ever met again, she would be ready. And over the next 2 years, that promise started looking more and more like a prophecy. Eala climbed, steadily then suddenly. She captured major junior Grand Slam success, claimed her first WTA 125 title, beat world number 4 Elena Rybakina, beat world number 8 Aryna Sabalenka, on grass, against the best players on the planet. The girl who had once been ranked 147th in the world was now turning heads in the sport's biggest arenas, and nobody was writing her off anymore. Then came June 22nd, 2026, a date that will be remembered in Philippine sports history for a long time. The official WTA rankings dropped, and Eala had jumped 5 spots, from 35th in the world to 30th. Then, when Canada's Victoria Mboko withdrew from Wimbledon with a knee injury, Eala moved up 1 more position in the draw. She was officially the 29th seed. With only the top 32 players receiving seeds at Wimbledon, she had made it with almost nothing to spare. But she had made it. She was the first Filipino in the Open era to be seeded at a Grand Slam. tournament. The reaction back home was unlike anything Philippine tennis had ever seen. Front pages, trending hashtags, primetime television coverage. People who had never watched a single tennis match in their lives suddenly had Wimbledon pulled up on their phones. A country was waking up to something new, rallying around one of their own on the grandest stage the sport has to offer. Then came the draw. When the Wimbledon bracket was released on June 26, 2026, the tennis world did a collective double take. In her first round match as a seeded Wimbledon competitor, Alex Eala had been paired with Mexico's world number 76, Renata Zarazúa. The same woman, the exact same player who had taken that match from her in Kerry 2 years earlier. Fate doesn't always knock this loudly. But when it does, you pay attention. Every great comeback story needs the right villain. And Zarazúa, whether she wanted the role or not, had stepped right into it. She was the obstacle, the unfinished business. The one name in the draw that made this entire Wimbledon journey mean something deeper than a ranking or a seeding. But then the story got even more layered. As journalists and analysts dug into the matchup, they uncovered something that added a whole new dimension of drama. Eala and Zarazúa hadn't only been rivals, they had been doubles partners. They had shared the same court, celebrated the same victories, worked through the same strategies as teammates. And now, here they were, standing on opposite sides of the net at Wimbledon, each knowing more about the other's game than almost anyone else on tour. Former partners, former rivals. And now, on the sport's biggest stage, opponents again, June 29th, 2026. Center court, Wimbledon. The moment had finally arrived. Thousands of Filipino fans packed the stands, waving their national flags so wildly that the stadium looked like it was breathing. The noise was constant. The energy was overwhelming. Wimbledon has seen legendary matches, iconic moments, and unforgettable champions. But a crowd like this, rooting this hard for a player carrying the weight of an entire nation, that felt new. Eala walked out as the 29th seed, calm and focused despite the chaos around her. She had won 9 of her previous 12 grass court matches coming into this tournament. And while the past month had been physically brutal, 4 tournaments crammed into a single stretch, none of that seemed to matter now. She looked like a player who had been waiting for this exact moment for 2 years. Zarazúa, for her part, wasn't intimidated. The 28-year-old was making her 3rd main draw appearance at Wimbledon. She had beaten Eala before. She had no intention of simply handing this match over. The opening set was a chess match. Both players held serve comfortably, probing for openings, refusing to give anything away for free. But gradually, Eala's aggressive baseline game began asserting itself. Her serve, once a genuine weakness, had transformed into one of her most dangerous weapons, and Zarazúa was struggling to get a read on it. Then came the breakpoint that changed everything. The crowd leaned forward. Eala bounced on her toes, and then she uncorked a forehand, flat, fast, and absolutely ruthless, that caught the corner of the court and left Zarazúa completely frozen. Center court erupted. The break was hers. The momentum had shifted, and this time, it wasn't coming back. From that point forward, Eala played with the controlled aggression of someone who had rehearsed this exact scenario in her mind 1,000 times. She closed the first set with authority, carried that intensity into the second, and when the final point ended, an ace, perfectly placed, no discussion needed, the stadium completely lost its mind. Filipino flags waved from every section. Fans screamed until their voices gave out. And at the center of it all, Alex Eala dropped to her knees on the grass of the All England Club, eyes closed, overwhelmed by the weight of everything that moment contained. 2 years of sacrifice. 2 years of doubt, hard work, and quiet determination. All of it for this. The final scoreline, a straight sets victory. Clean, convincing, emphatic. In one match, Eala had done 3 things simultaneously. She had avenged the most painful defeat of her career. She had made history as the first Filipino to win a seeded Grand Slam match. And she had served notice to the entire tennis world that her story was only just getting started, but what comes next is where things get truly electric. Waiting. In the second round is either Serena Williams, the greatest player in the history of the sport, back at Wimbledon on a wild card at the age of 44, defying time itself, or Australia's Maya Joint, the world number 53 who defeated Eala in the final of the 2025 Eastbourne Open. Either matchup comes loaded with stakes, storylines, and the kind of pressure that reveals exactly what a player is made of. For Eala, the financial rewards, the ranking points, the career milestones. Those matter, but they're not the point. What she is building is something larger. She has become a symbol, a proof of concept for an entire country that had never seen one of its own compete at this level. She is showing a generation of young Filipino athletes that the biggest stages in sport are not reserved for other people from other places. She is there. She belongs. And she is just getting started. So the question now is simple. How far can she go? Can she step up in the second round and beat a legend who seems to have found a second life on the tour? Can she extend this historic run deep into the Wimbledon draw and silence every last person who ever doubted her? Can she turn this remarkable story into something even bigger? The tennis world is watching. The Philippines is watching. And Alex Eala, cool, composed, and completely unafraid, is ready to write the next chapter. Drop your prediction in the comments. And if this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because however this Wimbledon run ends, you do not want to miss a single moment of it.